So it's been a little under 4 years since the animation department at DC started a new phase of the DCAMU nicknamed the Tomorrowverse. And with its imminent conclusion in a couple days with the end of the Crisis on Infinite Earth trilogy, I thought what better time would it be to look over the 6 or 7 movies they made and a short created in this premature universe. And it's crazy because what seemed to be originally a continuation of the original DCAMU New 52 story, well, not exactly a continuation, but let's say it was a new retelling of these characters, which is cool. Switching up the animation, giving us something different and new, and approach it with a new team of creatives, which clearly did not work. But you know, like how comics destroy their mainline universe and create new continuities all the time, it gives us an opportunity to see new stories with stuff that couldn't have been done because certain characters have been introduced and some characters have not been introduced. But before I start with the obvious starting point, I'm going to branch into the future. So what I will say was the beginning of the end, which was John Constantine, House of Mystery. And it's weird because I feel this was made to just wrap everything up. Like we can't really make a Justice League movie yet. And to make the conclusion make sense, we'll just loosely connect it with what worked last time. Yeah, use everything to wrap it up. See, I'm not confirming anything, but that's what this just felt like. Because I'd guess the films that were in deep production after this movie would have been maybe Warworld and the Crisis films, maybe Legion, but looking at the involvement of Legion to the next film was only a post-credit scene, I would have guessed it was completely an afterthought for that. But I'll come back to those movies. But yes, House of Mystery takes place right after Apocalypse War, and we do see a couple references to that other universe. That one demon from the City of Demons film is in this, and Matt Ryan also reprises his role, the only character that does so. And obviously from the start, it's just a retelling of Apocalypse War, but it's a bit jarring going from that old animation to this completely disgusting new one. Please, what are you doing? John Constantine looking like this now, and it's a trend in these films. Why did you massacre my boys? This is just a 26-minute short and it was great. Honestly, one of the best films and the highest points of these films across both universes in my opinion. And the charm of Constantine is still carried here, and it goes about him just fooling Spectre and also the demon, and because of that he's sent into eternal damnation. But the universe actually starts with Man of Tomorrow, and I do not want to start this whole Superman is boring discourse. I know you can have good Superman stories. Look at Smallville, that was great. And Man of Tomorrow as a proper grounded Superman film. I say grounded, but he destroys Metropolis's entire power supply, but that's just a regular Tuesday morning for them. And Superman is finally getting that respect here, without him having to die or cheat death or lose everyone around him. But we get to see him grow as a straight out of Kansas hero. And it's cool, have that origin about him trying to fit in and accepting his new identity, wanting to help people, both as Clark and Kal-El, but not understanding how to do it without letting everyone know it's him, an alien. We also get some alien characters thrown in here, which also add to that layer of the story. Love the addition of Lobo, voiced by John DiMaggio, finally getting a modern take of this character. Also, John Jones finally actually being involved in these films and not being killed immediately. Wait, he did. It's also just a Superman Year One story. As I mentioned, it's him trying to understand and help people. And in that Superman banner, letting people know and understand that it's him, an alien, and he's here to protect them. Like, this is how you do a Superman film, not putting him in a position to kill somebody. And they finally use a different Superman villain, especially one that he simply can't just beat up with force, and defeats him with the more, let me say, humane way. And I love how the Parasite was not just some random bloke. It took this approach to make this dude that a Clark has already met, Clark has already interacted with, Clark already knows to some extent. And we see the depth with him, and him also in this state he is in, but he still cares for his family. Then with that ground running momentum we started this universe with, we may take a major hit down with the Justice Society film. And it's not like I think this film is bad or anything, but it's the Justice Society. How do you follow up a Superman film with the Justice Society? Would have preferred that the main story of this movie would have been focused on the Flash, because we haven't really gotten one of those since maybe Flashpoint, but we got what we got. And I think I mentioned this before, but the Wonder Woman voice in this universe is not it.
Keep an eye on whatever this is.
And as much as they get a lot of the voices in this universe right, like Jensen Ackles as Batman, I love Troy Baker's Joker's voice, and even Aldis Hodge as John Stewart, Wonder Woman was a major miss for them. But they did improve on the animation. I still don't think it looks great. Like, why does Barry look like this? But I feel like it's more alive, the surrounding, compared to how soulless Man of Tomorrow was. But back on the actual movie, and what is this? What's the point of this? Why does this exist? I mean, as a standalone story, it wasn't really interesting or fun. And do not really do anything for the main story apart from maybe introducing Brainiac at the start. Wait, I know it also introduced that one guy that's in the Creator Crisis on Infinite Earth film, so that point is a bit invalid, but still. And the film was at its best when it did focus on Barry and his relationship with Iris and him learning the risks of his relationships and everything. But apart from that, do I care about the Hulk woman Black Canary relationship? No. Was I upset when Trevor died? Maybe a bit. But the entire film being this whole World War II, we have to save the world thing was just a massive missed opportunity. And don't get me started with the involvement of Superman in this film. This talking about the one that was like actually in the World War II universe. Like, why? Why did we need this Superman figure savior? What was the reasoning behind it? Why was this character involved? Couldn't they just have made these guys that are already taking care of the situation just do the problem by themselves? I just feel like it robs the entire point of this movie on these guys going on this quest and trying to beat this bad guy, which I also hate in this movie. It just doesn't make sense. But we're seeing these characters and all of a sudden Superman just gets plugged into the mix, but he's not being involved. Then obviously we know he's going to come back. I don't know, it feels like we were robbed something. See, it's not an awful film. It has its merits. Like there was this part with Hulk Girl, she was questioning what the point of what they were doing was, and also always having two flashes on screen is a blast, but the whole thing just felt like a waste of time. Whereas Batman The Long Halloween was just amazing. One of the best Batman films to ever be released, and I believe it's safe to say that. Second part is slightly better than the first, but they're both great, it doesn't matter. Also, I just want to say I have never read the Long Halloween comic, so just gonna let that out there, basing this film on what it is. This film and the other films, by the way. And for all the films with this new Tomorrowverse art style, I think this was the one that somewhat suited it for me, but did not like how the animation and voicing had this start-stop movement and feel like take my turn voice acting. Probably the voice actors were not doing the recording together, so it takes away from the immersion sometimes. Jensen Ackles also making his debut as Batman after voicing Red Hood some time ago, and he suits the role perfectly. Other things I love about this film and just this franchise as a whole is the fact that we see more of these heroes in their year 1 or year 2 introduction. What they did for Superman, for example, in the Man of Tomorrow film, and what they're doing Batman here. And this film felt a lot like the Robert Pattinson film, especially when we see the version of Batman evolving from this more of a crime fighter to this detective role.
I thought this would be about sweeping criminals off the street, maybe scaring them straight. I never thought the Batman was going to have to be a detective. A good one.
Pretty insane, because I just found out that the Batman film was actually based on the Long Halloween comic. It's also funny how like the early DCAMU films were more like the Zack Snyder movies. The takes of the characters, at least the Justice League members and that Aquaman movie. But here we get more of like a Matt Reeves version of Batman. And speaking of Robert Pattinson, to all those people that saying the Batman is too grounded to incorporate people like the Mr. Freeze or something, we literally get Solomon Grundy here and it worked. And I know it's animation, but this is one of the most grounded Batman animations you will get, maybe apart from Batman Year One. Also love the relationship between Batman, Harvey, and Gordon. That whole sit down felt a lot of like that one part of The Dark Knight, but the involvement of Harvey, a really broken man, divided by what's right and wrong, and how the system is broken and he needs to get out of the legal system and do this thing on his own version of justice. I always preferred this version of Two-Face, and it's always funny that when this exists, why do we always get that version of Two-Face that turns bad and becomes the one thing he always tries to destroy? And I won't spoil anything, but the holiday, the person's motivation, and when it all comes together, it was all really interesting. Especially when I watched this film initially with my friends. We're all guessing who's going to be the killer. Spoiler, I always thought the killer would be the calendar man somehow. Maybe he planned everything before, I don't know. But all that build up just to be really surprised at the end, and they made it all just make sense, and to see the killer's motivation for vengeance, and Batman just leaves them to decide their own fate. It's just such a satisfying conclusion. Also the Catwoman and Bruce relationship, like there's so much things I can praise this film about. I don't know, maybe I'll rewatch it and do a proper review for it later down the line, maybe if I'm bored or something, I don't know. But I did not like this film's ending, mainly because it turned out to be this big fight between Batwoman and Catwoman against the group of baddies that Harvey conjured up. If it was only Solomon Grundy, like that's calm, but Ivy, wasn't she just on Falcone's payroll? And the Penguin, where did he even come from? We never even see him, he just pops up. What's his beef with everything? Then you get Green Lantern Beware My Power. I really don't know about this one. Its direction is completely awful. Paired with the writing at times, it's just a mess. It had its good moments at the start and other parts of the movie just being sprinkled across. But from this movie is where this franchise, this universe just starts to fall apart, because we just saw Green Arrow in the post-credits of The Long Halloween. Why is there all of a sudden a watchtower? And as much as I hated how the first phase of the DCAMU films just dropped characters all the time, like we just see the Green Martian just pop out, we still had some sort of competent way that they would progress the story. But this just jumping straight to the watchtower, you could tell that this was the point where they were just like, okay, we're just going to speed this up. The show is going to end soon. We don't care. We're just going to tell our stories. But let me just get out with the positives. Aldous Hodge, for starters, just this modern Jon Stewart. Finally, we get Jon Stewart without having to kill him off immediately. And there was a bit of BS with his character, but I did enjoy what we got. His back and forth with Oliver and how he just ended up in this situation and just wants to get out but keeps on going with it. But no way did this guy actually think that he could just take a blue alien to the hospital.
Lay still. I'm gonna take you to the hospital.
Also, since he's in the army, he fights with like the army stuffs. He pulls up a truck, like an army truck, holds a rifle to try and kill Hal. Smart thinking there, buddy. And loved how the animated ring design also works and how like there's this energy beam and it creates the objects. It's just all cool. And onto the BS I was talking about. First, this film was alright until we meet Hawkgirl. And that's not even on the character, but the dumb direction the movie just took from there. Because after all its build up to introduce all these characters, all these new things, and setting up the situation that we're in, we just get dumped a whole lot of exposition. And maybe comic book fans might get it, but me as a regular viewer, how do you expect me to be hearing Ranian and Taraganian or whatever they're saying and understand what the hell is going on? And also the Sinestro problem. He was just made a doofus in this film. And I also want to believe that maybe how Jordan, being this corrupted guy, also managed to corrupt him. But the film just kept on contradicting itself. But Sinestro first, how nice of you to just neatly arrange all of their weapons. Such a great abductor. And you think, okay, maybe he underestimated John that first time, but you will not make that same mistake twice. Surely. Yep, he made the same mistake twice. And also how the whole Green Lantern Corps, I know yellow is stronger than green, well, according to this movie, but two guys should not destroy the whole of Oa. Come on. Especially when it's two guys that literally have the same powers that the people they're fighting have. Maybe they're a bit powerful, but come on. Two guys against like 100 of them? Be for real. And okay, fine. I guess that magically happened. It's established that here that Hal is the greatest core member. And how adding to that, how Jordan has all the powers of like the entire Green Lantern, whatever. And he should be unstoppable. At least he should not be defeated by someone that just has a fraction of the exact same power you have. Mind you, it's also a guy that's just starting to learn how to use it. Yeah, this film is ridiculous, but we'll go on record to say that it starts off pretty alright, but as the franchise from this point just rushes everything, the film just kills the Lantern Corps, kills Sinestro, and defeats a god-like version of Hal Jordan. All of that in 2 days. Like, come on, be for real. Then the Legion of Superheroes, and yep, we truly start to see the downfall from here. Because no offense to Supergirl fans, in fact, she was great in this, and I love the beginning of the film when we see her origin, and it just was not the right way to do it after that. First, starting with the stuff I liked, which was everything with Batman. Yes, Batman again, but the 2 minutes he gets on here is probably the best of this film. Now, did that add anything to the story of this film? No, it did not. And also the Supergirl thing in the start, her seeing Krypton get destroyed and coming to Earth late, an underdeveloped planet compared to where she's coming from, and she's trying to still fit in and also get used to her powers to also help people like Superman. And I like how Batman gives her this disapproval, and we get to see this Batman and Superman interaction, and we get into the issues of this film that I have, because how do we already get this Batman and Superman interaction? Like, they already know each other. Even the Justice Society with the Flash and Superman, that was like the first time they met each other. At least that's what it sounded like. But I guess they're already friends here. The league is formed and we already have a watchtower as we saw in the previous film. So even if I get past that, skipping the introduction of the Legion of Superheroes, just hold up. What are you doing here? There are many things you could have done differently. Maybe the Legion come in this movie, like that's the first time we're seeing them and looking for help from Superman. But maybe Superman doesn't want to leave this time. So Kara is like, okay, maybe I'll go as a chance to redeem herself and to, learn. And there we get to introduce the Legion in a way that makes sense for the casual viewer like me. Or my personal favorite story point they could have done for this movie is just make it a Supergirl film and do it in the present reality. Kara gets mad with the whole Batman thing and she leaves Earth like Omni-Man style, sees a planet, she helps the planet and saves them. And it could even be like Mon-El's planet or a planet he has invaded. The Darksmites hate Kryptonians, so it pits her against Brainiac, but then she sees that he's actually the bad guy all along, which is basically the plot of this film, but we don't need to add the Legion. And that would be a story explaining Kara trying to be her own hero and trying to learn it in a way that they also avoid this whole Brainiac plot. But you can also add that if you want to, but why do you have to shove this down Kara's throat? We don't want a Kara Brainiac relationship. And I just feel like that could have just been a way better way to do this movie. We see her find a new life in this new planet, and it's like maybe Thor Ragnarok, but we got this dumb band of heroes. Like there's a girl called Duplicate, but her powers is that if one of her duplicates die, the duplicate's gone forever. What kind of stupid power is that? You're just a human being with extra steps. But yeah, finally to the dumbest one out of all of these films, Justice League Warworld. The only Justice League film, and this doesn't even feel like a Justice League film. And on the surface, I think this was pretty good. The first, let me say, hour or so of this movie, when we see the individual League members in their mind reality thing, it was cool. We finally get to see our version of Wonder Woman in this reality, which she just gets shoehorned in this entire movie. And the Superman Noir storyline was my personal favorite, and I wish the entire film was that because of how good it was. It was like, let me say this, who done it? I'm trying to find out who the alien is out of all of them, and it's a shame it was the shortest one out of the 3 other short film stories. But if we got just that, maybe call it Justice League Tales of the Warworld and just market it as 3 short, I'd actually have no problem with it. But making it seem like they were in this world that they are trapped in and they have to find a way to get out, it just feels like it was robbed my time, especially since this film is technically that. But after what happens, it doesn't even amount to anything, and the film is a big example of everything wrong with the Tomorrowverse. I'm going to repeat myself again because it's so rushed. The film that came out before this, the Supergirl one, how did we go from Batman and Superman being captured in the post-credit scene to this whole Mongol threat and him also abducting Martian and Wonder Woman too, a Wonder Woman that we have also not been introduced to? And okay, Mongol captured them and wants to end the Martian, and he also hired Lobo. I'm sorry, calm down. Where is all this coming from? Why am I meant to care about all of this, especially since I wanted to see more of the Warman story or what the deal with the aliens is in the Noirverse? Why would you all of a sudden think I'll care about Mongol after giving me those 3 bangers of stories? Please. And after all that, the resolution, they just stay back and kill Mongol or whatever they did, or they destroy World War. Tongue twister. I don't care. And all of a sudden, they get transported again. And like, honestly speaking, what was the point of making this a movie? It should have just been shorts. Maybe they had the voice actors contracted to something and they wanted to just put them in another movie without paying cancellation fees. I don't know. Such a dumb movie. And Clark murdering people because you are scared is definitely the American way. You should know about that by now. Batman is out to get you.
I am not going to murder people just because I'm scared. That's not the American way.
Overall, these films started up and came crashing down like almost immediately. Personally, I feel like the animation improved over time, which is weird because this started in 2020, which was just 4 years ago. So why the hell wasn't it just great to start with? Also think the voice acting was really good apart from Wonder Woman. And if we got served all of that mediocrity just to get that one long Halloween movie, I might have to admit it was all worth it. I'm intrigued to see how they fix everything. They can't fix anything, but like, I'm intrigued to see how they'll try to wrap it up and make it manageable with the End of the Crisis films. I doubt they can do it, but I'd love to be surprised. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day and a better week. Peace.